Hi, I'm Jim Gordon, and welcome to another discussion with SmallCapPower. Joining us today is Marc Levy, CEO, Chairman, and Founder of Norsemont Mining. We also have John Currie, Vice President of Exploration for Norsemont. He's joining us from Chile. Marc, good to see you again. We talked late last year. It's good to see you. And John, welcome to us from a very long way away. Guys, you've got a presentation coming up in just a few minutes, but before we get to that, as we always like to do, let's start out with a little background on both you gentlemen. Marc, we will start with you.
Sure. Thanks for good to speak with you again. It's been a little while and happy to catch up.
Thank you.
My background is more from the corporate finance side of things and been involved in capital markets, as you know, Jim, for almost 2 decades now or more, and been involved with our first mining asset, which was Norsemont Mining, which I call Norsemont Copper or Norsemont 1.0, that we sold to Hud Bay, as well as Petakia Minerals and several other metals assets that we ended up exiting. Luckily, in 2011, we sold, close to $950 million of public companies, and left that and did a stint in some of the tech and oil and gas sector, and founded a company called Aurora Cannabis, which was a new sector for me, and got involved pretty heavily in that sector, and obviously created a win for our investors, which was nice. And here we are again. I'm back in the mining sector with Norsemont Mining and my colleague here, John, and we're having some fun with our main project, Choquelimpie, in northern Chile.
And John, over to you, joining us, as I mentioned, from Chile. You take it from there.
Great, thanks, Jim. It's a pleasure to be part of this this broadcast and part of the Norsemont team and being in charge of Choquelimpie. Just try to keep it brief as possible. My story. I came to Chile, immigrated in 1991 with a buddy of mine from university, another geologist. He's currently president of Mirasol Resources now. And so we started our venture here. And, my first job, I got hired by ex-discoverer of Escondida, Pat Burns. And then we took it from there, working for a bunch of different companies, Princeton Mining, a whole bunch of basically junior to mid-sized Canadian companies, Rio Elgom, and then Quadra Mining, I guess is kind of my longest stint and the best to date, with project manager of Sierra Gorda. And we made the discovery of Sierra Gorda, which was then purchased by KGHM, the Polish company. And now is what we found there is now in production, a world-class porphyry copper deposit. So, after that, then, 15 years with them, and I said, hey, I want to try this junior market scene, and it kind of got caught up with the excitement from Marc and his team, and here we are.
Marc, I want to ask you, we talked about this last December, but just to kind of recap, Norsemont owns 100% interest in the Choquelimpie gold-silver project. Can you talk briefly about how you acquired it?
Sure. It's an interesting story. Back in 2019, through an introduction of one of my colleagues, we met with some of the people that represent COPEC, which is a very large conglomerate in Chile. They were exiting the gold sector and their projects. There was 2 projects we looked at, Choquelimpie being one of them, and another one, Minera Can. And they were stepping into the copper space in Peru, funny enough, and investing into Minagusta out there. I think they invested almost $1 billion there. And so we looked at this opportunity, and I thought the world was an upside down place with all the debts and the way things were going. I thought it would be good for me, my family, my people to be exposed to gold. And I thought that was good timing. And I didn't realize at the time it was great timing, because by the time we ended up acquiring the project and closing on everything, COVID hit. And then things went a little haywire for gold in a good way, and unfortunately for our governments as well. So it was perfect timing, perfect storm. We've acquired Choquelimpie. We own 100%, as you said, and it was the 3rd largest gold producer back in the 80s and early 90s, and we're fortunate enough to have someone on our team that actually put it into production back in those days. So it's a really unique project with which we'll talk to, and a lot of data, a lot of infrastructure, and it's been exciting and fun, I think, so far for John and myself and everybody on the team.
Yeah, and John, I'll wrap up with this last question for you. Why Chile?
Why not Chile? At the time, it's been pretty bizarre, because my 30 years in Chile so far, we've, gone through a bunch of different metal cycles, the ups and downs. But it doesn't seem to have affected Chile, whether that's the gold space, gold, silver, copper. It's just such a dynamic market here. Back and forth, the number one producer of copper in the world, quite high in production of gold and silver as well. It's just been phenomenal country for me. I've been very successful here, so I'm happy here, and we're going to continue the success with Norsemont, and Marc and the team are great people at that company.
Well said. And Marc, last question to you. John mentioned the team. Let's talk a bit more about your team before we get into the presentation.
Sure. One of the things that's quite interesting about the project, we have David Lang, who is our advisor of our chairman of our advisory board, who's an engineer. He's worked at a COO of Equinox. He's worked as CEO of Quintana and several other billion-dollar companies, and he was also head of Endeavour Mining. He put this project actually into production for Shell back in the late 80s. So we have someone that's knows this project for several decades, and he was born in Chile actually, which is interesting enough, and lives here in Vancouver. He's an investor in the company. So he's a key guy on the team. Later on down the line, when there is production or there's an exit, he'll be key with some of his colleagues like Bill Katsouris, who's helped us out from Endeavour Mining. And I have my good friend Art Fries, who is on our board from the predecessor, Norsemont. He was with me since 2004. And it's scary to think that I know Art for 18 years. So I guess I was pretty young when I first met him. And he's got a lot of experience. Obviously, he was a primary geologist at Goldcorp, and he was chief geologist at Wheaton River when I first met him. Very impressive guy. And we've got Adrian King, who left Teck Resources recently, and he's heading up our technical team. And him and John are, speaking on a very regular basis. He's involved on, dare I say, a daily basis. And he spent 8 or 9 years in Chile as well. So we've got a really strong technical team. I have my partner and colleague, Chuck Ross, who's on our board, who has a lot of capital markets experience, corporate finance experience, structure experience. And so, that's kind of our core team. And we've got Kulwant, my partner, who's our CFO. He's a CFO and an engineer. And I think we've got, a nice advisory board of people that have known the project for a very long time. So we're overstacked on the technical side, which is quite nice. It's got a team here that has a lot of experience, a lot of success behind them. And we're hoping to leverage all that experience and create a much bigger success with Norsemont.
And we will wrap on that, guys. We're going to hand the floor over to you in a second, talking with Marc Levy and John Currie, Norsemont Mining, Norsemont.com. He is N-O-M. Guys, we're going to come back at the end of the presentation to wrap things up. We're also going to answer some questions. So I will do what I often do in these situations. I'll step off stage and hand things over to you.
Okay. So I'll just walk quickly through our presentation on Choquelimpie, our gold-silver project in northern Chile. All the pictures that you see in our PowerPoint here they're not stock. They are actual photos from our project itself. So it's good to know that these are things that you see here are on the ground and part of the project itself. Standard disclaimer. The project itself is in Chile, northern Chile, very stable jurisdiction, amenable to production, top copper producer in the world. We've got a past producer, was the third largest gold producer in Chile. A lot of work was done on the project. We've got over 1,700 drill holes on the project and close to 140,000 meters of core, which is stored in our core shack. I'll show some photos of that later. We're expecting our 43-101 resource estimate. Currently, we have a 5.5 million ounce non-compliant resource estimate done by AMEC Engineering, and we're bringing that up to compliance. We just finished off in December our maiden drill program, our phase 1 drill program for 10 holes, and results are coming out as we speak, and we've had some results out since February. There's huge upside in the near-term oxide leaching opportunity on the project. We have close to 300,000 ounces of gold equivalent sitting in the dumps here, and it's close to 1 gram per ton. And we've done a lot of work on sonic drilling and metallurgical work, and we're going to be doing some optimization work. And we've got several funds and engineering firms very interested to help bring that to production, which could create, a potential $300 million windfall for that particular part of our project. It's not the main part, but that's a very valuable part, obviously. And then we have the potential for our porphyry, our copper gold porphyry system, which in our last news release, we've discussed that we've hit porphyry mineralization. Obviously, our team's very excited about that. We do need to go back in our phase 2 drilling that we're anticipating next quarter and testing that out. But we've had some good geological data and good results from our drill program showing that this is the beginning of the porphyry system. It's in an area where we didn't originally expect it to be, in the northern part of the project, and it does come towards the surface in that area. So that's another value proposition for the project itself. Here you see another photo of our project. We've got amazing infrastructure. We've got the community on side, the local government. Myself, Marc Levy, people know who I am. I've talked about it earlier. We've been in the mining business since 2004. Art Freeze, one of our technical directors and directors of our board, who worked for Goldcorp and Wheaton. Adrian King, who ran the technical side internationally for Teck and overseeing our project. Chuck Ross, my partner and our lead director, involved day-to-day managing the project. A lot of corporate finance experience. Kyle, another director of our company with corporate finance experience. Coolwant, my CFO, who's been a CFO of NASDAQ companies, mining companies, technology companies. Key guy you guys heard from, John Currie, is our VP Exploration, man on the ground, been there for over 30 years in Chile, been involved with some major discoveries such as Sierra Gorda, worked for the guys who discovered Escondida, has a lot of experience in Chile, amazing guy, on our ground day to day. So, and we've got actually David Lang, who put the project originally in production for Shell back in the 80s, so with an engineering background. And so he's got good knowledge of the country, good knowledge of the project, and from an engineering standpoint, he headed up Endeavor Mining, Endeavor Financial, obviously good on the M&A side as well. So got a really well-rounded team. Chile, as I said earlier, very stable mining jurisdiction, #1 copper producer. The asset itself has a 4.1 million ounce of gold and 62 million ounces of silver, making a 5.5 million ounce equivalent. This is non-compliant, not 43-101. It is historical, as outlined in the disclaimer below. It was done by AMEC back in 2017. We are bringing that to standards as we speak. We've also got a historic oxide resource of over 200,000 ounces of gold and 5 million ounces of silver. And one thing interesting with all of our drilling, typically the first 15 plus meters are all oxides lately. And so we know we can expand that oxide resource. And obviously we want to target building out a 500,000 million ounce oxide resource, because that would make the project a lot more cost effective and get us to a cash flow situation. Challenging year in 2020 with COVID. Getting access to the project was a bit of a challenge, but we had an opportunity to get compiled data, re-assay a lot of the core that we had, over 15% of the core. And that data came back very consistent, so we can trust the old work that was done by COPEC and done by Shell. We managed to get 2 drill permits and complete 2 drilling programs and re-logging assays on our project. And we did a very important LIDAR, IP, and MT survey, which goes much deeper, which helped us define where the potential is for mineralization and this porphyry itself. This is what I call our IP anomaly here, our blob. It shows about a 2.2 kilometer anomaly from our MT program, and shows that there's mineralization below the existing known pits. On this slide, you see Choke, 70 meters of 3.6 grams of gold from surface. That's existing mineralization still there. Vizcacha, there's 35 meters of 32 grams of gold. There's also silver in there, not tested to depth. We call that the Marc Levy wants to drill hole, which we will in the next phase of drilling get to test to deeper levels. And then we've got that IP chargeability anomaly, which could be the porphyry mineralization, maybe gold mineralization. So we're testing that in our drill program as well to depth. And that's new data that they didn't have in the past. The project itself is poorly tested along strike between all the different zones or pits, as well as to depth. As said earlier, the project's only been tested to 70 meters. And of course, our thesis was that this mineralization should go down 200 to 300 meters. We've put out several drill holes, proving up, at least 200 meters of mineralization. And so that thesis is being proven over time here, which is really exciting for our team. This is another slide of that anomaly in the Choke A Pit. As I've mentioned earlier, you can see here the different zones that we have. The main Surrey Choke A Viscacha zone is where the main resources are, and there is other zones such as Zoro and Intermedio and Hudmento that host mineralization and require further drill testing, and hopefully there can be some connectivity between them. So we've got a really robust project, a lot of opportunity to increase the size. We've done 66 holes into the dumps with regards to bringing those towards a situation where we can de-risk that and bring it into a production, a leaching situation, fast track, and generate some significant cash flow. These are some of the top 5 historic intercepts. And unfortunately on this slide, we don't include the silver and or copper, but I'll talk to it a little bit. In Viscacha is known as our high grade gold zone. You can see from 0 to 35 meters at 32 grams a ton of gold, 0 to 22 meters, 14 grams, 18 meters at 17 grams. So you're getting on average 20 plus meters of double digit grams of gold. And actually in that top hole, it actually has 8 grams of silver in there that we didn't put on the chart. So there's some silver values as well. And this is our high grade gold zone. Choke A is in the middle of the project. And you can see, one of the holes of 70 meters of 3.6 grams, 120 meters, which is one of our deeper holes from the past, of 4.1 grams, 20 meters of 7.7. So all these holes start at 0. That's very significant to see 0 to 70, 0 to 90, 0 to 120 mineralization. And a good example, we've got a 158 meter hole in Choke A of close to 4 grams of gold and 200 grams of silver in here. And there are a lot of nice copper intercepts that haven't been quoted on this slide. So it's interesting that there is some copper in this area, and these all end in mineralization. So these need to be tested down to 300 plus meters to hopefully extend the mineralization, which some of the drilling we've done this past year has proven. And in Surrey, which is a really exciting area, you can see there's 24 meters of 38 grams of gold, 58 meters of 6 grams, 16 meters of 15.5 grams. There's very high grade gold intercepts, and on that 38 meter, 24 meters of 38 grams, we even have 148 grams of gold. And there is in certain one of these holes, there's between anywhere between 0.5% and 4% copper. We're having 1% and 2% and 4% copper intervals here as well, which is pretty exciting. So this area does need to be tested to depth, and then obviously we have several other areas to test on our next set of drilling for 2022. We completed the 10 holes as I've talked about. Results are pending. They should all be out over the course of the next little while here. Moving on here, we talk about that 35 meter at 32 grams of gold, which we confirmed by a reassay in the northern Viscacha pit, and we will be testing that hole to depth on our next drill program. So hopefully we get a multiple of that. Would be sweet if we can get that. From our drilling program that we did this year, you can see here we've got mineralization from 0 to 93 meters of 1.38 grams per ton gold, which also has some higher grade. You have 50 meter hit of 2 grams of gold, and the mineralization goes right down to 189 meters of depth. So that shows you that this project is robust beyond 70 meters. So that was very exciting for us to see. Another drill drill target that we had here that went down to 30 meters of 3.6 grams and did have some 9 meters of 6 grams as well in hole number 4. So we've gotten some pretty nice numbers. Hole number 3 shows mineralization of 63 meters of 1.4 grams and even 35 meters at the last 35 meters of that hole at 2 grams per ton. So down to 190 meters, again, confirming mineralization at depth, which was our original thesis, is that there is mineralization that can be had here. One important thing here, if you look at the top of the slide, we've got 14 meters of 1.3 grams of gold equivalent in our oxides, which we also see in another part of the drill hole, 19 meters of over a gram gold equivalent oxide. So that's really important that we're discovering a lot more oxides in the project and look to expand that. This is a cross section that we've talked about some of these existing holes, 93 meters of 1.38 grams per ton, 31 meters of 3.6 grams per ton. So we were getting some really good numbers out of the project, just as we expected. It's been a very exciting time for us to get this drill program done and show that there is mineralization. We've also recently put out a news release. Our last news release was the most exciting, where we've discovered the Viscacha porphyry area, and we've discovered porphyry mineralization at 300 meters range, 350 meters, and you can see in this slide all these veinlets of porphyry mineralization. So that was the biggest, exciting part of our last news, and we've discovered the northern part of Viscacha. There are some showings, and we're doing some sampling and some mapping, and we'll get some more news flow coming out about those results, and which do show that the porphyry does extend to surface. And definitely John and his team, I know we've talked about phase 2 drilling. We'll be going back and testing some of that zone as well to see where that grade extends to, what the porphyry extends to, how deep it extends, and so it'll be an exciting time for us. So huge upside on the project. Blue sky potential here is we've got our oxides, a couple 100,000 ounces of gold in our oxides to put into production short term. We've got additional mineralization in the oxides. We are going to be using more modern techniques on the metallurgical side of here, optimizing metallurgy, which I'll talk to the fact that the metallurgy on the project is quite good. There is a lot of sulfide mineralization that hasn't been tested by geophysics or drilling that we will further extend, and we have extended in this drill program. And of course, we'll plan to do a lot of nice holes into the porphyry mineralization that we have. One of the good things that happened last year is we've got the local Aymara people and community on side. They're the local indigenous community. They blessed the project. You can see an actual photo of our project with them on here. They blessed our drilling programs. They blessed our project. We've got the local government on side. We've got the regional government on side supporting us. And so that's a really good situation for us moving forward to have buy-in from the local stakeholders. The project itself, we have data from past work done where they're hitting 90% plus recovery on leaching and 87% on gold in bottle roll testing. And this is old data that's still relevant, but we have not used newer techniques and optimization. So our expectations is to get better recoveries on the metallurgy, which is already amazing on the project. So that'll help provide a more robust return and increase the value of the project. And here's a wonderful slide of the infrastructure that we've inherited here that one of my colleagues, David Lang, even said in one of our previous interviews that the value of this infrastructure is incredible. You know, there's $150 million of infrastructure here. We've got full power, year-round road access. We've got 4 water permits of 2 of the wells drilled. We actually have in the middle of the screen here, a 3,000 ton a day mill that's in really good shape. As you can see, it's not a rust bucket, which we could put back into production to produce on the oxides, which would be nice. We have got an ADR effluent plant, backup power. We've got a 35-man camp. We refurbished that. We've got a lab for sample preparation. So we've got we've got a wonderful core shack, which you can see in 2 pictures here, stacked 3 stories high. We have all the core from this historic project, which is very valuable considering we've run and spent a lot of money re-assaying a large percentage of this core to validate it. So good work was done by COPEC, good work was done by Shell and Northgate. So it's very valuable to have that core. The project itself is in a very economically depressed area, and we have a very good value-added opportunity from a tax perspective. If we were to put a several $100 million mill and plant in to produce from the sulfides, we could get a 30% tax credit. So 300 million in, 90 million tax credit. That changed the economics of the project dramatically and increases the IRR and the capital return. There's a 40% tax credit on any buildings that you put in, such as building out a 200-man camp. And very important, Chuck, my colleague, and Bill Katsouris, one of our advisory board members, are working on this. For any gold exported out of Chile, there is no tax because this is in a tax-free zone, the Eureka tax-free zone. So we are trying to structure things so that we can take advantage once this project goes to a production situation. We can benefit from the tax situation that we have here. So really robust situation, great opportunity, a lot of upside in drilling the depth of this thing, bringing the project through to compliance from a 43-101 standard. Second phase of drilling should generate a lot of news flow for the next year. And we're doing some metallurgical work on the dumps and leach pad mineralization. And basically, you know, we've got a large opportunity with this porphyry that we will now drill in phase 2, which we anticipate to be about 12,000 meter program, 40 holes. So quality project, top-notch expertise, great jurisdiction, community on side, incredible infrastructure from a previous producer. We've got 55 million shares issued and outstanding, no warrant overhang, 4 million options, and significant ownership by our team and the people around us. And, you know, I think this is one of the cheapest gold plays out there with what I call the lottery ticket for a large copper porphyry system as well. So huge opportunity here, trading near a 40 million market cap. And, you know, hopefully we can produce a lot more results this year and create some good value for our shareholders. And thank you all for your time.
And Mark, I wanted to get to the exciting news that was just released by Norsemont. It was, we say, hot off the presses. Can you expand on that, please?
Sure. We just got our latest drill results that came out from John and his team. Really excited. This drill hole number 9 did provide us with mineralization down to 300 meters, which obviously continues to confirm our thesis that mineralization does go well beyond that 70-meter threshold, as well as we've gotten some higher grade numbers at depth. And I'll maybe let John talk about his, we'll call it John's baby, because I think this is the best hole that we've hit to date.
Yeah, no, this is a good one, but there's going to be better than this. I have that feeling. But yeah, this is a really interesting drill hole. It was up on the upper level of you know, of kind of the northeast part of the Choke A Pit. And what I had talked about earlier, so we, you know, it was kind of a dual reason for it to put it up there. And, you know, we wanted to test for more oxide material for potential leaching. And that's where we got, you know, the first 15 meters of 0.84 grams of gold. And, you know, that's huge for us. And then there's some other phenomenal intervals, you know, followed by 47 meters of 0.56, and then huge interval, 170 meters of 1.35 grams of gold, with a gold equivalent of almost 1.6 grams of gold. And in that interval, of that broad interval, that was carrying 0.2% copper. And so, you know, within that 170 meters going down to 300, and remember, like Mark said, this area average drilling was 70 meters depth, 70, 80 meters. So we're down to 300 meters of mineralization, and you know, within that You've got areas, we've got a zone 94 meters of gold equivalent 1.93 carrying 0.3 copper. And then we've got areas where, you got some higher grades of, 6 meters of 4.3 grams, almost 5 grams gold equivalent with over 1% copper. So this is geologically not an enigma. This is confirming a lot of things in our minds, and it's tying into our porphyry hypotheses and getting these great numbers, especially the copper and the high grade zones. This is coming from a deep source, a well mineralized deep source. So that's something we're really excited about for coming up to our next drilling campaign in a few months this year. We're going to be drilling the heck out of this area here and stepping into the porphyry environment. So stay tuned.
Somebody's asking, how likely is the porphyry you hit the one that you wanted to hit?
It's extremely likely, but what the cool thing is with these systems, like in all these porphyries worldwide that host these upper parts of these epithermal systems, there's this big mass, right? This big magma chamber, this cupola, and you've got all these pulses coming up from that. So we don't know if we've hit we're seeing indications that are phenomenal. The veining, the cross-cutting relationships, you've got early veining, A veins, D veins, B, Q veining. I won't go into the detail of what those means. And then later, the late stage D veins cutting this. So all these indications that we're seeing is, yeah, this is the real deal. This is part of a porphyry system. Although it's very early, we've seen stuff, we've mapped stuff now in outcrop. We're seeing the same things, these vein sequences in this dacite porphyry. So we're really excited, but again, we want to manage expectations. It's all the indications are there that it's a great porphyry. But yeah, we're going to do a lot more drilling this year into that.
Mark,
I guess one of the things John mentioned to us earlier is that, it's a tough question they're asking, is this the one we're looking for? But these systems, John, correct me if I'm wrong, they host multiple porphyries, can be on the project. So this may be one of many porphyry systems within the project?
Sure. You see that all over. That's why, you see these systems, what they'll call clusters, right? These porphyry clusters. Okay, that's in the, in the porphyry world, porphyry copper world. But what we're seeing here, it appears that, there's this porphyry or system of porphyries, and we're at a lower erosional level. So we're seeing, that's why we're into this environment of porphyries, cupolas, and into the epithermal environment just above that. So it's very interesting to wrap your heads around that. And I don't want to get too far in the weeds on this, but it's fun when we talk to.
Excited about it.
Yeah.
Mark, I want to ask you about the NI 43-101 report. Is that still on track to be released in the next few weeks?
Yeah, so we've had some delays due to COVID, technical delays and vacations. So our expectations is to have this out in the second quarter here. So yeah, it won't be out by the end of this month. It should be out next quarter.
And what will be the timeline for the next drilling?
I think we're looking to get back onto the project in May timeframe, but I would defer that to John, really.
John, you want to jump in?
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're just we're coming into the end of the kind of the rainy season. Not so much rain, more as electrical storms. So we don't want people out in the field or drill rigs being a nice target for the lightning. So that's ending up now towards the end of this month, the first weeks of April. So what we're doing is we're planning sometime in, towards the end of May to get starting up, continuing our phase 2 program. But in the meantime, we're putting together compilation maps. We've got, easily, 14,000 meters ready to lined up where we want to drill. And that's going to be focusing on, I got some feedback from Mark as we didn't, drill some of these obvious, really high grade long targets. We kind of wanted to more spread things out on our initial program of 2021. So we'll go back into that. We'll shore up some of these high grade areas just to verify and confirm the robust nature of this, the mineralization, historic mineralization on the property. And then with the the new porphyry target, we're going to want to go in there and put in at least in this year as many holes as we can and vector in on that, delineate what that is, because we're seeing awesome values out of some of our drill holes that we're getting our results back from 2021. So yeah, we'll do that. We'll go in, we'll expand the drilling, the success we had from the 2021 program, which is, like I've stated before, it's like an onion skin where what we've seen was 70 meters had only been drilled, average depth of these drill holes, and that's just phenomenal. If you look at some of our peers, some of the drilling in Chile, Solaris Norte and some of these other these places, Filo del Sol from the Lundin group, where they've got 300 or 400 meters is kind of their average depth. So we're dealing with 70 meters, so we have a blank canvas to work with, which is phenomenal. And so our drilling is showing that we're expanding in all directions at depth and laterally from the known mineralization, but we just we need to get back at it sooner than later.
And Mark, how concerned are you about Chile nationalizing mining operations? If you hit that copper porphyry, will you be nationalized?
Yeah, that question's come up quite a bit recently with a lot of the companies in Chile. And I spoke to one of the people that run Los Andes Copper, which is a large copper deposit in Chile. No one seems to be concerned about it. It has to go through the Senate. And I was told the last time 23 items went through to the Senate and 3 of them passed, and one of them was, hey, let's give ourselves a raise. The Senate's not going to allow for nationalization. I mean, like John said, Chile has not really seen a downturn in mining, despite there have been downturns in the sector, because they're such a big mining country, and their GDP is dependent on it. So the government understands their paycheck comes from mining. Foreign investment in the country is huge. It's seen stable. I talk to analysts all the time. That's not even a concern. And I know there was an article that went out and got some press, and so caused a bit of friction for people. And it was more geared towards lithium in Chile, which they've done, lithium and copper, which the Chilean government is probably going to institute some new taxation there, which rightfully so should, help with the local community and help with the country. From the gold side, we're not really concerned. And again, copper prices where they're at, paying a little extra tax is good for everybody. And the price of copper where things are at, there's so much profitability that taking care of other stakeholders in country is kind of unnecessary.
Mark, I want to ask you, what's the status of the dumps?
So the dumps are an integral part of the project, and our great technical team had spent quite a bit of money doing some drilling, some sonic drilling. I think we did 66 to 69 holes into the dumps here to get a better understanding of what we actually have here and what the grade consistency is. And I believe there's some metallurgical work that we're waiting on to get us some better understanding. Those dumps represent several 100,000 ounces of gold that could be easily leached out at a very cost-effective basis and generate a large amount of cash flow for us. And our team at the board level have been pushing that strategy forward. We've been talking to engineering firms, and there is some larger engineering firms that are backed by institutional funds that want to put this into production and generate a profit share. And so earlier in the game, we had guys coming to us saying, hey, let's do a 50-50 split. We'll take some risk, we'll take some profit. It sounded really good. But fortunately, we've got a strong technical team and decided let's spend some money on this because, there's potentially $300 million of profit in these dumps. And by spending $1 million drilling it and getting a better understanding, de-risking it, we can negotiate a better return on it. And we've got, about 3 different funds would like to finance putting the dumps back into production and take a piece of the action. And if it was an 80-20 split, for argument's sakes, that would produce a couple $100 million to our bottom line, cash-wise, without distracting us from the rest of the project. And John, I know, is doing a lot of work. Maybe John, if you want to add something to my comments I may have missed on the technical side, or anything else with regards to the opportunity with these dumps.
Sure. We, like Mark said, we've done a lot of, part of our reassay program of 2021, we were able to find, what's called the coarse rejects or pulp material from the initial assaying of the dumps that were part of historical metallurgical testing. So we got all those samples, save for 3 out of the 99. We reassayed all of that. We put together our own program of drilling the dumps via sonic drilling. We've assayed all that. Two-pronged approach. Prove that the initial drilling was valid, and to see, and to get material for our current metallurgical test work. And so that's in place right now. So there's a couple things I want to note here. What we plan on doing with the, besides the typical column leach test work to see what kind of recoveries we could expect, we're also going to be doing some additional work using, some other techniques, peroxide and optimization studies, which are more modern compared to the original metallurgical test work, to help us with recoveries and put together a plan for the restart of leaching. And the other interesting thing about this that makes Mark really happy is from our surface mapping of around the deposit, around the pits. You remember there's 7 pits, historic pits on the property, but around the major pits, what's left there is oxidized material, and we've done a lot of mapping and sampling around those, and we're seeing, great grades that will be leachable, 0.5, 0.6 grams of gold. And so we're putting that information together. We've seen in what's coming out next week in some of the material from our newest press release. We'll be able to show 85 meters of, 15 meters of 0.84 in the upper oxide part. So if we can continue that, and that's going to be part of the planning for 2022, that'll be kind of the blue sky surprise stuff from Mark, was we'll be able to put some more drill holes into that upper level oxide stuff. And I don't have any doubts that we'll be able to significantly expand the oxide material for leaching.
And Mark, we'll leave the last words to you.
Yeah, so and one of the good things on these dumps, there is so much value that's sitting there on the ground. We've been approached and we're in discussions with a couple of the royalty companies that would potentially provide a multi-million-dollar financing for the company using a royalty on the existing dumps, which doesn't affect the rest of the upside of the project, just those existing dumps. So that would be a very non-dilutive funding for the project to further our drill programs and geological work on the project, which would be nice, and help us move the dumps towards a production situation. And we have our own, a really good game plan here where we don't want to distract John and his team from the actual advancing of defining further the porphyry mineralization and obviously expanding the gold silver resources there. And so we want to bring in a third party partner on the engineering side to put those dumps in production. And the one good thing is, once that happens, the infrastructure that they invest in gets paid out from the cash flow. We now own that, and now we've got an infrastructure that what John led us to here is, we're looking at defining, can we define another 500,000, 1 million ounces of oxides? We would be able to leverage that and use that existing paid for infrastructure and not have a split and cash flow that as well. So the company at one level is moving towards a cash flowing situation, which makes it sustainable for a very long period of time, provides a lot of capital, could provide even the CapEx for the larger part of our sulfide resource to put into production. So we've got a really nice, robust opportunity here where we've got, you know, the porphyry situation, which is really exciting for John and his team and myself. We've got near-term opportunity for huge cash flow, and then we've got this amazing resources, John said, that, you know, the last couple of drill holes have demonstrated multiples. You know, it was originally 70 meters. We've got drill holes going a couple hundred meters down with mineralization. So our thesis is actually being proven out, which is really awesome.
Marc Levy is the CEO and chairman and founder of Norsemont Mining. We want to thank him. And actually, we also want to thank John Currie, who's the VP of Exploration, joining us from Chile. It's norsemont.com. Guys, we thank you for your time today and your presentation. We should also thank our team on our side. Check out all the videos on the Small Cap Power YouTube channel. I'm Jim Gordon. We'll see you next time on the Small Cap Power discussion.